Win Monday Nation. What is going on? This is the latest episode of Paul's Take inside of the Win Monday podcast. And we are on the heels of an epic conversation with Jade Gordon, none other than the daughter of Hall of Fame speaker and dear friend of the podcast and myself personally, John Gordon. You might know him from books like The Energy Bus and The Power of Positive Leadership and The Seed, and I could keep going, but needless to say, John is a massive fan of what we are all about in the Win Monday community. I met Jade when I heard both of them speak at the Purpose Summit at Notre Dame Stadium at the same time, and I instantly fell in love with the spirit and the approach on how Jade attacks every single day of her life. So if you have not heard that conversation, go back and take a listen. But one thing that Jade pointed out, because she is earlier in her life, she is in her 20s and she's up and coming in the speaking circuit. And again, you'd have to go back and listen to the conversation for not only where she's been, but what she's up to and who she is becoming literally day by day, week by week, month by month. It's just a transformative journey. And it was a masterclass on how to tap into your calling. So if that is of interest, then go back and take a listen. But one thing that she talked about that hit me to my core was overcoming imposter syndrome. So maybe that's been a part of your journey. It certainly has been a part of mine. I think if we're being honest, every single one of us has felt a level and a sense of imposter syndrome. So in her case, it was largely because of the potential of, at least internally, even though her dad never made her feel this way and the world never pushed this on her, but internally in her private moments, my goodness, I'm going to become a speaker. My father is a Hall of Fame speaker, and what are people going to think of me? And am I good enough? And do I belong on that stage? I think those are all very natural feelings that Jade shared. In my case, it could be about the stages that I speak on. It could be about the high profile world of sports. But for all of us, it could be a career. It could be our social circles where we feel like maybe I'm not enough. Should I really be in this room? Am I prepared? Am I up for it? And when we think of questions like that, I've got a couple of tips and pieces of advice on how I've been able to the best of my abilities overcome those internal demons of imposter syndrome. The first of which is this: instead of thinking about what you don't have or who you are not or what you have not done yet, think about who you are, your strengths, your gifts, your talents, your abilities, your skills, what you have done, and start there. Start from a place of my glass is half full versus the internal mindset battles of my glass is half empty. I am not enough. I am not prepared. And I lack confidence and conviction and courage to step into this moment, step into this room, step into this job, step into this career path. Those are the things that we deal with. So instead of focusing on what you have not done, focus on what you have done. So here's a good example. Maybe I'm a little greener. Maybe I'm a little earlier in my career journey. And so I step into a room of high-powered C-level executives. And I am the youngest of which got the promotion into this room. And this is a true story. This is where I really was. So there was a version of me with imposter syndrome where would have said, I don't know if I belong in this room, or frankly, I don't belong in this room. Okay, that's one perspective. The other is, what an amazing opportunity that I have, not only to be in this room, but I have something that they don't have. I, because of my youth or my inexperience, which others could look at as a weakness, I look at it as an advantage, a competitive advantage, because I say, maybe I'm more curious. Maybe I'm more hungry. Maybe my thirst for learning is at a different and higher capacity. So you get where I'm going with this. There are inherent advantages to being a little bit earlier in the game. And yes, maybe my resume can't check all the boxes of all the people that are around me, but I have some intrinsic qualities, some life qualities, some life experiences that make me the strongest player in this game, in this moment, in this day. And that is the approach of how we can overcome imposter syndrome. Instead of focusing on what I do not have, focus on what I do have, what I do possess, why I do belong here versus glass half empty, why I don't belong. And then the final piece, and this is just a little sprinkling on top, authenticity wins. We often fake it till we make it or have imposter syndrome because we perhaps have dug ourselves a hole by saying certain things in our history that got us the job and got us in the room. And so now we feel inadequate. Now we feel unprepared because maybe we said some things or alluded to some things or gave a little white lie or whatever it is in order to get in an environment, whether the job or the country club or that. And we knew that we weren't ready, or at least we felt that we weren't ready. So you've already heard my tips on how to overcome that. But the other part is don't dig yourself a hole, because often we fake it till we make it when we've already dug ourselves a hole. Often when we have imposter syndrome is because we've done or said something in the past that got us in that environment. And now it creates this gap. It creates this void. It creates this tension. So 2 principles: focus on what you have versus what you don't have. Step number 1 to overcoming imposter syndrome. And step number 2, be authentic 110% of the time. That's it for today's episode of Paul's Take inside of the Win Monday podcast.